Hi, and welcome to Reality Check. I'm your host, Lou Meyer, and my guests this week are Justin Gold and Jenna Mobley, who recently returned from doing service work in Thailand. So thanks for coming on, you guys. This is really interesting to me. What prompted you to go to Burma and Thailand?
Well, we've been reading the newspapers, as everybody else has been, and recognized that there was a distress situation there for refugees and children and really all the people there. And we had had previous connections in Thailand. We had done a service trip there some years ago and had some connections, made the contacts, found a place to go, and decided to go there.
Wow. And what did you find when you got there?
We found a pretty tense political situation.
It's scary, isn't it? There's like military...
We're tough.
I guess so. And you're back, so you survived the trip.
And we're back, yeah. Really, the situation was concentrated more in the border area, and the refugees were somewhat back from the border area, and we most of our work took place with the refugees.
And how many folks went with you?
We went over a period of about 2 months, a little more than 2 months, and had a constant presence of about 18 to 20 people. Mm-hmm. So people went between 2 weeks and 2 months, and there were about 30, 35 people went in total.
Now, how does one, suppose somebody who's watching the show wanted to do service, how do you find out about these opportunities, if you would call it that?
Well, there really aren't opportunities. It was very much as the way you were talking. You see something that you recognize the need, and you see your capacity to fill that need, and you find some way to put something together so that you can do it. We don't have a formal organization that goes around, but we did go to Mississippi and New Orleans and after Katrina, and we did this. But the rest of the time we live here in the area and live our lives.
So now you had some previous connections in the area, but they're quite a few years ago. Did you like reconnect with them and say, hey, look, we want to come over with about 25 people and do some good, and they helped you organize that?
Actually, when we first called them, they were Daughters of Charity, a religious organization. Mm-hmm. We're basically a heathen organization. So we called them, but have made some really good friends with them with the work we did together. They told us the possibilities, and we picked from those possibilities. They said you could go to Cambodia. I didn't think we were equipped to go to some place quite that primitive. In Thailand, we were relatively comfortable, even though the refugee situation was fairly intense. We were able to live fairly normally. We rented houses, and that went okay.
Wow. So you found facilities for 25 folks to stay in while you did work, and well, what kind of work did you do? Were you building for them, or?
We spread ourselves over about 3 or 4 projects. We did building at a place called the Maytao Clinic, a clinic developed by a person who was originally a Burmese refugee. Her name is Dr. Cynthia Mong, and fairly well known in the area for the clinic she developed. So we built a building there for her. And then we also worked on a school, worked in a school with the children there. We also worked at an orphanage and basically visited, did some puppet shows and things like that, more that Jenna could talk about. I was more building.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that, Jenna. What was your role in the process?
Well, I was able to go into the schools with some other friends, and we went to a few different schools and orphanages. One of the schools was very poor and in the slums area. It was obviously a school of great need, and we taught some English classes and played with the kids and sang songs, and we did some puppet shows, and we also gave away a lot of stuff to the kids, some to the schools and the orphanages, things that they needed. You know, they didn't have basic supplies like whiteboards and chairs, and some of them, I think one of the schools didn't have a refrigerator, and so we supplied them with that. and helped supply materials to rebuild and make the schools, a little safer. Like we put in a sidewalk in one of the schools to enter in because in the rainy season, there's snakes and the kids have to walk down that path. And so we, did some basic things like that. And it was really interesting for me. I have 3 children of my own, and to walk into a school and see so much need. That the children were really hungry to learn and to play and to get our attention. And when we gave them whatever we gave them, they were really happy to receive it. And they had very little expectation of receiving anything, so they were happy to have anything that they got and loved to share with each other. And it was really a beautiful thing to see.
It sounds wonderful. Now, so when you guys got there, were there an overwhelming number of refugees? What about like food supplies and medical supplies and things like that?
Well, we brought over probably 10 or 12 duffels full of medical supplies that we had and equipment that we had that had gotten donated here. We brought them with us, and we just also organized for them to be receiving medical supplies from some organizations that wanted to send them. But the situation there is that there are formal refugee camps where the refugees there are what they call legal. The Thai government has actually accepted them and sponsors them and supplies money for them to live. It's still very primitive, but they are cared for. Then there are a large number of migrant refugees, people who have come across the border because they were running from the oppression on the Burmese side and didn't have legal acceptance in Thailand. And those were the people that we basically dealt with, the illegal refugees. And many of them end up at this place that you're going to see some slides at, where we built at Dr. Cynthia's My Tao Clinic.
So, so what you were doing was kind of, helping to create some sort of a semblance of comfort and happiness in a group of people that were just totally displaced, and a lot of them had lost their families and didn't know what they were going to do or where they were going to go. It's kind of like the Tibetans in India in a way.
Yeah, similar, except the conditions were probably a little rougher. Maybe we could take a look at some of those pictures.
Certainly.
Because it does certainly give you a picture of some of the conditions, even at the clinic.
Okay, Terry, let's put some of the slides on and we'll discuss them. It's wonderful that you guys did this. What a great thing. There's so much need in the world. It's great to see people that go out and do something about it.
This is a picture of Dr. Cynthia, and she's been in Thailand on the border for about 15 years, since the 1988 student uprisings. Mm-hmm. And the clinic is very loosely knit. It's a bunch of shacks, but they do a lot of medical work, and they have formal operating rooms and pretty primitive conditions, but they make a go of it, and they deal with thousands of people.
What about the water? Is the water good?
The water is okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
That was one of the issues my friends had in India.
These are the outhouses, and you can see it's very primitive there, but they keep it very clean,
yeah.
And they do take care of it, and are in need of formal buildings that are actually well constructed. And the Burmese kids wear, what you're seeing here is not war paint. It's sunblock, and that's how they deal with the sun there, because it's very strong. We picked a blank spot that they had. They wanted a building, and we worked together with the Burmese people there, because a lot of the jobs were very heavy jobs, hauling gravel and sand and cement and laying block, and took us about 2 months, and we put up this building that they're going to use for their eye clinic, which is starting about now. They get doctors from all over the world to volunteer there for a period of time and do an eye clinic. Every 3 months, they do cataract operations and things like that.
And is there a constant supply of food and other needs coming into them?
There's a supply of food. You know, the food they eat is pretty rudimentary.
Yeah.
They eat rice and a
Rice
little
and
more.
veggies, right? Yeah.
But they do eat well enough. You know, it's not sufficient from our standards, but it's sufficient.
It helps them. Well, if somebody wanted to get involved or volunteer or you know, donate money or goods or anything, how could they help?
Well, Maytao Clinic is definitely on the web, and you can get in touch with the Maytao Clinic that way. We're really not soliciting money for them, but what they do need from time to time is people who go to Thailand who are willing to hand carry medical supplies and equipment are needed. And if somebody wants to do that, we have a relationship with Direct Relief International, which will supply the materials, the equipment and supplies, and people can get in touch with us and we can put them together.
Now, if folks want to get in touch with you, how would they do that? Do we have a website or phone number or contact?
You have our website, and you can get in touch with our website.
Here's
That's
Maytao
the
Clinic.
Maytao Clinic website, which you can get in touch with and learn about it. Or you can get in touch with our website if you happen to be going to Thailand or want to go there. They always need volunteers there, and if you go there, you can plug in, say you know Jenna, and we'll open all the doors for you.
Right.
It's amazing. So 2 months, you get a lot of stuff done in 2 months. And that
That's all we
building,
did.
The structure alone is
We
amazing.
didn't do much sightseeing. It was
No, I imagine not.
no. We thought we might, but we ended up working there every day in some way or other, and it was, anybody who's done that knows the fulfillment level is very high. And you don't really seek entertainment when you're doing that kind of stuff. It's just,
You have to stay pretty focused, I would
Yeah.
imagine. And an interesting thing is, like, they're not really expecting too much. They have no idea what to expect at all. And then suddenly a whole bunch of people come and start doing good things for them. The gratitude level has got to be incredible.
yeah, it is. We have some more pictures of where Jenna was and some of the schools and orphanages, and maybe we could show those
Sure.
too.
Now, did you have a preconceived idea of how you might do something for them, or the puppet shows and schooling, or did you just wait till you get there to figure out what the needs are?
We figured out a few things before we left. We left with some puppets, so we had some ideas, and we put it together right before usually, and we'd go in there and sing Itsy Bitsy Spider or do a puppet play, and I mean, it was, you know, they were happy to play and do whatever, and we played with clay. And there's the sidewalk that we did for the school where before there would be snakes and all kinds of things. That's a puppet show.
Attention is a big thing. You know, orphans don't get much attention anywhere. And so paying attention to the kids is really appreciated. And by the teachers as well, the teachers there as well. This Folk Manus company donated all these puppets for us to take, and they're outrageous puppets. You don't have to be very talented. All you do is got to hold them up. But we did have a play that we wrote beforehand, and we got a lady who spoke all the languages, the Karen language and the Burmese language and the Thai language.
Oh, I didn't even
and
think
she
of
just
that.
she went with us to all the puppet shows.
Translate everything
Yeah,
for
she
them?
translated everything, and they gave us a lot of handout puppets too, which you can see here. We handed out a lot of puppets, and they gave one to all the kids, little finger puppets.
You're having some fun there.
Yeah, they loved it.
God, just the situation in the world is just, oh, there we go.
Yeah, this is one of the schools that we taught the English, and they actually knew quite a bit of English, and they loved it.
You have a lot of children in there.
Oh
There's
yeah,
somebody
we
who
were
looks
playing
a lot like
clay
you.
there. Yeah, just one of the kids. They were very creative. Yeah. That's,
Paints, huh?
yeah, that's some of the other crafts that we brought.
They don't have much to play with and much to work with, so
No,
you
it
have to
doesn't
pretty
look
much
like it.
bring everything. This is a picture of Aung San Suu Kyi, who on the wall, who is their patron person. You know, she's been under house arrest for 20 years, and she's the head of the democracy movement there, and she's basically their hope.
Does it look like any resolution at all? It
Not
just
yet.
looks like total
Not yet.
turmoil.
Yeah, not yet. These are this is playground equipment which we had to design and have welded because they don't have. We looked for the traditional swing sets, but they weren't available. So we found somebody to weld that for us, and that was a huge hit. To
Yeah.
put up the swing sets. And maybe Jenna could talk a little about this area. She went here to the slums.
Yeah, this is the school in the slums, and it was, I mean, as you can see, it was pretty poor.
Primitive, to say the least.
And some of the children were extremely malnourished, and, you know, there was a boy who was 6 years old, he looked like he was 3, and he just started walking maybe 6 months before we arrived, and we donated when we left, we donated everything from our household, so we had beds and pillows and blankets and mats and all kinds of things. There's 35 families that live around the school there, and so they all received those things as well as some money as well.
And these are all those folks that aren't legitimately undocumented.
Yeah, they're all undocumented.
35 families. How many folks in an average family?
I don't know the answer to that. You know, I think it varies. But there were over 100 children at the school, so there's a lot of children.
And more coming all the time, I
Yeah.
imagine.
They come to the clinic for medical. They're allowed to leave Burma on a day pass to come to the clinic, which is right over the border, 5 minutes over the border. So, but they have to be back in. But people who are seriously ill stay, and once they stay, they become illegal. So a lot of the treatment at the Maytao Clinic is for people who are in the country, in Thailand, illegally. But Thailand has allowed the autonomy of the clinic, so that has gone fairly well. They don't bother the people in the clinic, but the motion around the country is very limited for the undocumented people.
It must be hard for them to figure out a way. You know, suddenly all these refugees start showing up in your country. You've got to figure out some way to deal with it. I don't know, regulating. Well, I guess regulation's all part of it, but
Right.
how do you assimilate those folks?
I think Thailand has dealt with it fairly benevolently.
It sounds like it.
I think that they have. It's a difficult situation. It's not a wealthy country, and I think that it's gone pretty well. But it's a really a terrible situation politically, and the resolve of it is definitely going to have to come from other countries agreeing to put the pressure on for them to change, and that has really not happened as yet.
Are there a lot of folks coming from different parts of the world to help folks there?
There are some. There are organizations that are set up there, non-government organizations that are set up there, and some work in the refugee camps, some work with the undocumented people, and it does happen. But medically, it's definitely they're definitely in need.
Now, so you're well received. No matter how many people you show up with, you'd be well received to come and do anything to help out.
I think anybody who would come there with the intention of being helpful would be well received. You don't have to have any formal skills. Certainly if you're a physician or you're a medic of any kind, a paramedic, you could find a place right away. And there was a doctor from Davis there that we ran into, Dr. Terry, what was his name? Terry?
I just know him by Dr. Terry.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And he spends 3 or 4 months a year there. And any other medic who wants to go there can definitely find a place to spend a few months and have an experience that's unlike any other experience they might have.
Did you see like disease, or was it more injuries, or what kinds of medical need?
Both. There are people who are victims of landmines, of course, like that part of the world. And there is a lot of malaria, which is a big problem in Burma, but you're pretty safe on the side of the border we were on. There is also tuberculosis, which is rampant, and HIV is there as a presence. But mostly malaria is the biggest problem that they have there. So there are a lot of people that don't look well.
But they have the medical facilities, and are they bringing in enough medicine to try to contain it, do you think? Or?
For what they have, they're doing pretty well. I think they're doing pretty well. They certainly try to serve everybody, but they deliver 6 babies a day at the clinic itself,
Man.
which is a volume of service.
So 6 new people a day, they aren't even the refugees, they're people that are already there.
Yeah, there are people who are already
And
there.
babies, that's high need, needless to say.
They have an agreement with the local hospital, so if anything is beyond their ability to treat, they send the people to the local hospital. But they deal with thousands of people every year coming in from Burma for medical treatment. And that's just the medical end of it. Really, the answer is political, and it has to be dealt with a change of
And it's not being done.
Not yet, no.
So, well, you guys could find houses to stay in or housing for yourselves. What about all these refugees coming in? Where do they stay? Are they just living out in the open, or?
They, if you're illegal and you have no source of income, you pretty much end up in one of those slum areas, or you end up working in construction. There are jobs for construction in the area. They pay $1 or $2 a day, which is really not enough to do anything but buy some rice. So there are places to stay, and the weather is relatively conducive to being out in the open a good part of the year. So the people, although they live very basic lives, they do find there is work there, even for the illegals.
So, all right. So it sounds to me like well, of course, the political issue needed to be dealt with. But if folks wanted to help, somebody to bring in medical supplies, anybody who has any kind of medical skills, certainly be helpful.
Or if you want to donate, then you could get in touch with Maytao Clinic. They certainly can use donations. Or if you're going to Thailand and you want to carry medical supplies with you, we can arrange that. We can work that out.
What about like clothing and food, or canned goods or foods or stuff like that? Is that too difficult to transport?
I think it's difficult to transport, although we did bring some. The clothing available there is much cheaper than it is here. And best, if you're going there, if you want to go there, or you're a person who's going there, bring some money, buy some clothes, and bring it over. They can definitely use clothing. But I would buy anything. Everything is available there except technology.
So it'd be better if you were going to somehow go there, you could go there and buy the things to help them out.
Yes, I think so.
Boy, it's just amazing how much need there is in the whole world. So when you guys went to Katrina, was that the first time you had done anything like this?
It probably was the first time for Jenna, I think.
Yeah, it was my first time.
But we had been doing this maybe once every 2 years for about 20 years.
Oh, for about 20 years
Yeah,
now. Where do you
right.
think you're going to go next?
I don't know. I'll read the newspapers and we'll
Yeah, just
find
look in the
out.
paper. I'm sure there'll be a place
Yeah,
for
there's
you.
always a place.
Yeah,
And we have gone back to some places, gone back again.
What about like spirituality? Do they have? Is it a Buddhist area?
Yeah, it's a Buddhist country.
And well, that's certainly an important thing. Did they have any facility for that? Did they have any shrines or anything like that?
They have a plethora of Buddhism. They have a lot of shrines. They have a lot of tradition. They have a lot of the culture is very steeped in tradition of Buddhist practice, and also a good number of Catholics as well, because the church has been in the area for a long time as well.
I ask about that because a lot of people get comfort from their religion or from their spiritual connection, and even though they may be in dire straits, that'd be the one thing that would give them hope. You know.
They do have a lot of fireworks. They do have fireworks, and they have festivals. Every weekend they have some kind of festivals. You know, the interior of people's houses aren't as comfortable as ours, so they're not really resting places. So a lot goes on outside, a lot goes on in the streets, and they have parades and they have festivals, and they have fun in that way. It's very colorful.
What about, Jenna, what about in the education side of things? Now, when you were teaching these things, was that like just to keep everybody entertained, or was it an ongoing process where they would learn more and more each day that they'd be valuable to them?
They learned some things, I think, that would be valuable for them. A lot of it was to bring some joy and some lightness. You know, they've been through a lot, and it's hard to know what they've been through. So they did learn some things, and we would try to teach them some numbers and things that they could use. and that would be helpful to them. And but we taught songs, and we taught, hands and body parts and months of the year and things like that.
The reason I ask this is because, there may not be a lot of doctors or medical people that could go over, but certainly any of us who have any educational skills at all, or just are willing to go and do something, that might be a good place for them. You don't have to be very skilled to, to teach numbers, or and if there's a translator, it pretty much eliminates the communication issue.
Yeah, most of us weren't skilled at those things. We did it out of, a joyful feeling and to have fun with them. And yeah, I think anybody who could connect with a child could do it.
It was pretty neat. Finger paints or paints and things like that, that's pretty low budget. And maybe, and if you can get all the things there, if people would go over and be willing to spend a little bit of time, helping educate and to, again, bring a little joy in and also some education at the same time, that'd be real helpful.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but it's wonderful that you've done this and that you continue to do good in the world. Maybe this will inspire some other folks to consider what could they do. As for myself, as I get older, I'm 60 now, so I'm going, oh man, I've lived more than half of my life now. What about my mortality? I've had my parents and friends pass away, and I go, okay, well, what good can I do? What can I learn? So what kind of experiences can I have that be enriching? And I have a 13-year-old son, so I want him to appreciate these kinds of things. It's not all about playing computer games or running around with your friends playing music. There's a lot going on in the world that we need to know about, especially to be able to make the change. Something positive would be a good thing.
Well, if you want to go over there and you have some time, if you're going to go over, get in touch with us, and we'll hook you up with a service organization there, and you can have an outrageous time.
So, all right, so and this is paradam.net, that's you guys,
Right.
and Maytao Clinic. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing this stuff with us. And are you going to be doing any slideshows or anything like that in the area?
We might.
It's a possibility.
It's a
Go
possibility.
check out the website and find out more. Well, we're a little early, but I want to thank everybody for watching Reality Check. Hopefully everybody will have a Happy New Year, and consider those folks around the world that aren't having a Happy New Year, and think about maybe some way you might be able to help them. And again, it's wonderful to have people in our community that are willing to put, a large group of folks who are willing to get out there and really go someplace and do something. So thanks for watching Reality Check. Happy New Year and happy holidays, and we'll see you next show. Oh, and thanks to all of our staff whose names are too numerous to mention. And especially Tricia True, who is on our staff and who was one of the folks that went on this trip and brought this to my attention.